hope you're doing great today. Okay, so yeah, I admit it's been a while, but today I want to go on yet another rant. I want to pour out my heart. I want to let you guys know exactly where we're at based on the things that are rapidly unfolding around the world with respect to the globalist agenda against all of humanity. We're going to go to the United States of America. I remember I have made videos where I told us that this election in the United States of America is arguably the most important election in all of history. And it's not just for America, not in American history, in the history of all of humanity. Because the far-reaching implications of this US election cannot be overstated. Everybody who knows about international politics and the dynamics of international politics and all the agenda of the globalists and everything they've always planned against humanity should know that this election is the most important. And that's why some of us researchers have our eyes fixated on what is going on in America. I talk about Trump a lot because the man is in the eye of the storm. I believe God wants to actually change things through him. And this is why if you are a preacher, if you are a Christian, if you are even just a human being anywhere on earth, or you are a peace-loving person on earth, you should be paying attention to what is happening in America. Remember the last time they tried to assassinate Trump. And when he came, I saw a lot of people reaching out to me, hey, Brother Joseph, you've been saying this thing that they're going to try to kill him. I said, well, that's not going to be the only one. And then a second one has happened. You all saw the second one, right? There's even a third one. But let's talk about the second one that just happened. It was a guy, Ryan Routh, a guy who has been campaigning to get soldiers, to get people, mercenaries, to go and fight on the side of Ukraine in the war with Russia. This is a guy who has openly made videos to hire mercenaries from different parts of the world to send them to Ukraine to go and fight against Russia. That's the person who tried to kill Donald Trump. Do you see any little connection? Do you see the dots connecting somehow? That's the guy who tried to kill Trump. He's been working to raise an army against Russia. And now, if you can take a pause here, just have a reflective trip down the memory lane and remember all the videos I have made on why I keep telling you guys that if you know what is going on between Ukraine and Russia, you will know it's still the same old battle between good and evil. It is a dying, satanic, evil empire that has ruled our world that doesn't want to lose power, doesn't want to relinquish even an inch of their power. They are the ones fighting against Russia because Russia has risen as the only force that could stand up to them by offering or proposing a multipolar world against the unipolar world system that they have operated since we have been humans, since we have been alive, including you watching me today. I've explained this in so many videos. The unipolar world system is controlled by the same colonial Europe that gathered in Germany in the 1800s and divided the continent of Africa like a piece of cake and drew the boundaries of Africa all the way from Germany. Africa's boundaries were not decided by Africans in Africa. The boundaries were decided by colonial forces of darkness from Europe. Every single part of this world that has been colonized as of today have been colonized by countries in Europe. I keep repeating it so that this fact, this truth will sink deep down into your soul. The number one of them is the United Kingdom. If about 100 countries around the world have been colonized, UK has colonized probably about 70% of them, followed by France. And then you have all those other ones, Italy, Brussels, Belgium, then you have Spain, you have all those ones taking the little crumbs. But the larger chunk of the colonial escapade that these people embarked upon that still has impact on us and effective today is borne by Britain and France. So these are the empires that control the unipolar world order. or the unipolar system that our world has been under. The unipolar world order is a system that is controlled by just one ideology. And that ideology is far left, ultra-liberal, satanic, anti-God ideology. That's why you see all of them, they speak with one voice when they want to promote LGBTQ. They speak with one voice when they want to promote Satanism. They speak with one voice when they want to promote godlessness. They speak with one voice in a coded form when they want to promote human trafficking. With one voice, because these things align with the ideology that they espouse on a good day. I told you already, you need to go watch some of my videos I made when I talked about unipolar, multipolar dichotomy. You need to watch it so that I don't have to keep repeating myself. They control everything you think you've ever known. They control for the first time ever. That's why Russia has now come as the person to challenge this unipolar system. And they were like, what? Someone to rise up to challenge this behemoth? This monster, gigantic monster that rules over the whole world, and Russia is standing up. We are going to frame him. And that's why the war in Ukraine is useless. It's a very stupid war. It is senseless. There is no reason why the war. That's why even when Ukraine and Russia agreed we were going to go and sign an agreement and end the war and go after peace, guess who showed up in Ukraine to stop it? Guess who? Boris Johnson, the former UK Prime Minister. It wasn't someone from America. It was Boris Johnson that was sent by the empire to go and stop the peace deal so that the war will continue. In his own words, he said, let's just fight. I've published it. I've shown you the proof. You can look it up on your own. So the aim is to tame and destroy Russia by every means possible. And today, having laid that foundation for you, let me take you through the things that have happened so far. Pay very close attention. There's a guy in Europe. His name is Fico, the Slovakian Prime Minister Fico. Yeah, Robert Fico, if I'm not mistaken. As soon as he was elected, Fico said, our country will no longer continue to funnel money to Ukraine in a war that does not have any end in sight and a war that does not make any sense. Guess what happened to Fico? After a very short while, a deranged liberal lunatic showed up with guns and began to shoot at Fico, and everybody was sure that Fico was dead. We watched this thing live on TV happen. They rushed him to the hospital. We were all waiting to see whether they would say that the guy had died, but nobody would have been surprised if they did say that. But somehow, Fico miraculously survived. That's number one. Number two, Donald Trump shows up and says, before I even take the oath of office, I will end the Ukraine war. Boom! They came after him. Where? They shot him. And the popular Trump assassination attempt happened. And when it happened, I told you guys, it wasn't going to be the only one. Another one is coming. Now Ryan Roth came with his own at the Trump golf course in Florida. How did the guy know that Trump was going to be at the golf course? And he showed up and was there. That's a very important question. How did he know? That's how everybody's saying, this is inside job. But now look what happened afterwards. So the Secret Service fired a shot in his direction. He fled. And after that, now they confiscated all the confiscatables. And now we saw what happened recently that has never happened before. Unprecedented. Someone left a note with a bounty on the head of a president of the United States of America who is the leading candidate in the election. And the Department of Justice of the United States of America under Biden and Harris had the temerity to publish the letter of a bounty on a former president of the United States of America. When they couldn't even release letters of tiny little situations or cases, they will tell you, no, this is a serious, sensitive thing. It cannot be brought out in the... But you brought out a letter about a bounty left by a liberal lunatic, Ralph. And I'm going to read you part of what Ralph wrote in that letter that DOJ made public. In that letter, Ralph wrote, this was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and gave it all the gumption I could muster. It is up to you now to finish the job, and I will offer $150,000 to whomever can complete the job. He has gamed it. This was written before the attempt was made. So he's already made the attempt. You know how they do all those gaming? They game stuff out. Okay? Now, they call it war games. But he gamed his own. He said, now, the gaming plan he had was, I tried, I failed. In case it happens the way I am gaming it out to be now, please, anybody who can now go and finish the job, I am going to offer you $150,000. This is a normal common citizen. Who is giving him the $150,000 that he is going to offer? Who is funding him? Who is sponsoring him? So this should tell you everything you need to know about the plan against Donald Trump. Trump says, I will end the Ukraine war. Ending the Russia-Ukraine war is tantamount to burying permanently the wickedness of the colonial forces of Europe once and for all. One more Donald Trump term in office would destroy the colonial forces of darkness. One more term in office. You saw what happened to them when he was in office the last time, his 4 years in office. He made sure that they paid their fair share, and he made sure that they didn't go to any war. And NATO was suffering so much that Macron went on air and began to cry that NATO is going through hemorrhage, that NATO is having a bleeding in the brain, that NATO is dying. You can look it up. It's out there in the media. So you can imagine what will happen with one more term of Trump in the office. He would deal with these people so much that they would never recover from the wickedness upon the nations of the earth. And how has Russia done it? I have said this over and over and over again. Many of you know the story of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. We always use those Sahel states as reference points. You know their story. You know how these guys came and took over from the colonial forces of France and reclaimed their destiny and took back the destinies of their nation and began to run now on a fast lane to prosperity. Who made it happen? It was Russia. Russia gave them the code and the secret of how to break loose from the conundrum of colonial enslavement. And you can see what is happening today. I have done videos in the past where I explain to people the actual truth about what is happening in Africa. You can sit in radio station studios, you can go on air, you can write on the newspapers and do all your political analysis in Africa. It's all a waste of time. 99.9% of all those analyses do not address the real issues that Africans are dealing with. The issues we grapple with on the continent of Africa is the issue of the colonial impositions. France helped us to understand what is going on. We found out that for every French colony in Africa, that there is something called the pact, an agreement called the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. It is not only France that has signed this secret agreement with their colonies in Africa. Even the British ones have it also in existence. You may not see it, but that is what is going on. Because all the requirements and all the details contained in the one that France has with the colonies in Africa are the same things playing out in broad daylight in all the British colonies in Africa. You don't see people in Kenya saying, hey, you see, our country is not really our country. It doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the UK. It belongs to the British. The same thing that's happening in Nigeria. Because, you know, according to the agreement that the French colonies signed with France, which took away all the rights of the people, of the indigenous people, you don't have any right, to the point that when a new natural resource is discovered, that the France or UK will have the right of first refusal when it comes to extracting that natural resource, drilling the oil, mining the gold that has been discovered. So when something is discovered newly, say gold now discovered in Nigeria, the first companies that will be invited to come and explore and mine must be British companies. And when they have all gotten all the large lion shares and they are tired and they now say, oh, there are just a few other small mines left. That's when you can now invite any other person. They have the right of first refusal. That's why British companies control the drilling of oil in Nigeria. Shell. It's the same all over Africa. And here is the kicker. The kicker here is that as they take all these natural resources, guess how much royalty they give to the African countries that own these resources in their ground? Highest we have heard on record is 5% royalty. I told you the story of Yahya Jammeh, the former president of Gambia. How that they approached him and they offered him 5% royalty. And the guy said, are you people crazy? Are you crazy really? Are you saying this or is this a joke? And they told him, Mr. President, you should actually be lucky because if you accept our 5% royalty offer we're giving you, you will be among the only 2 countries in Africa that have ever gotten up to 5% royalty in anything they have in their country. The rest are from 4.32% down. Okay, in case you don't believe me, did you see the video of the wife of the president of Sierra Leone?
When you look at what Sierra Leone have to offer, when it comes to our mineral resources, the kind of mineral resources we have in our country is enough to take care of everybody in that country. We should not have a single poor person in Sierra Leone. But unfortunately, we are not given the free will to make decisions on our own mineral resources. There's always Big Brother who decides. And when you fight and say, no, we are not going to do this, they use the system to stop you. It's either they set you up with the opposition and they will be supporting the opposition against you from the back, or they cause unnecessary chaos in your country so that you are not able to even govern your own people. They will do things to make you not to be functionable. And of course, any country that don't have peace cannot develop. You have to have peace before you talk about development. I'll give you a simple example about Sierra Leone. Every mining company that is in Sierra Leone today is owned by a foreigner. Every mining company. If it's not the Chinese, it's the American, it's the British. Our electricity, Bumuna, is run by the British, and we still don't have light. Before my husband became the president of Sierra Leone was benefiting, they said, what's the word? 0.000.1%. What is that? Basically, a company can take as much as $100 million out of the country in terms of minerals, and then they can just give the country $10,000. Now, what will $10,000 do for our health system? What is $10,000 do for our educational system? And these are the things I believe that are stopping Africa from progressing. We don't have a say. The sense about us celebrating independence, I don't know why we're celebrating independence, because we are not free.
This is the amount they are giving to Sierra Leone from the gold deposits in that country. Can you imagine? Tell me, with the figure you just heard, how much can the president do with that money? But look at the amount of money they make. So those guys were right when they were telling Yahya Jammeh that he's going to be one of only 2 countries in Africa that have been offered 5% before. Now you guess, how much do you think they are offering Nigeria all these years? Which is why Nigeria took the position of the 6th largest oil exporter in the world, and yet is also called one of the poorest nations in the whole world, not just in Africa, as of today. You only hear about how rich your country is. It never trickles down into your individual pockets. They did this in Libya. And when they did it, it worked for them for so many years until Gaddafi showed up. When Gaddafi showed up, Gaddafi said, never again. And what did he do? The secret I've always told everybody who cared to know is to take the resources and nationalize it. Kick out the corporations that siphon your wealth to the European countries that have colonized your country and claim they have left, yet they never left anywhere. They still exist in these countries as corporations. You kick them out. You take hold of your own natural resources and you begin to sell to whoever you want to sell to, and make sure that you keep the money that you make. If there are taxes to pay, you pay. But much of the money you make stays with you. In other words, you have nationalized the wealth of your natural resources. That's when you become a first world all the way from third world. There's no rocket science involved. It is just as simple as that. You see any African country that has resources and they are poor, this is what is going on. Their wealth is going to the colonial powers, and they are giving them fractions, crumbs. So with that crumbs, you cannot do anything. So what do? They now tell you, since you don't have any money, even though you are richer than them, and they are stealing all your money, and this crumb you're getting is not enough, let's loan money to you. So they will take from the money they have stolen from you and loan to you at interest rates that are beyond human comprehension. Your own money, they loan. Go and read the pact for the continuation of colonization. Read it. This is why Africa, no matter who you place there in power, politics or politicians will never save Africa. What will save Africa is a well thought out revolution like we have seen today in the Sahel state. However it comes, let it be a revolution that will nationalize the wealth of the nation, not the one that will siphon it to the colonial powers or colonial forces of darkness, as I call them. That's what is going on in Africa. That's why Nigeria is the way it is today. That's why they're having presidents now becoming the ministers for petroleum, presidents, because they need to sit over it and be the good boys that they were appointed to be, and make sure that the wealth goes to where it's supposed to go to, not for the people. But when Libya did what he did you see what happened? Life expectancy in Libya became the highest in the whole continent of Africa. People became so rich that if you are getting married as a young man, they have about $40,000, $50,000 in account for you. They have an apartment for you. Libya was a first world country in Africa. And when they realized they couldn't take it anymore, they framed him and took him out immediately. That's why till today we still miss Gaddafi. Gaddafi was about to use the template he used in Libya to liberate the rest of Africa. He started going around telling them, stop borrowing money from these guys. Let me give you the blueprint. They saw it. They framed him and they took him out. And when did they do it? They did it when they had a black man as the president of America. That's why every time I see a black person coming to power, I'm worried, because that's when black people will suffer the most. So you won't be able to point and say, hey, that's white people, look what they're doing to us. The white man will be wary. Oh my gosh, they're going to go back to slavery. They will say, we are always oppressing them. But a black person will go all out to impress his masters. How can he be told that our brother, the greatest asset we had on the continent of Africa, was killed, eliminated under the regime of a black man in the US? How is he told? Have you seen Libya lately? If taking away Gaddafi was liberating Libya, have you seen Libya lately? Is the number one hotbed for terrorism in the whole world today. It's the place where you see the highest level of human trafficking in the whole of the world, not just in Africa. It's been going on since the man left till today. They haven't been able to bring any good thing to Libya, just like Iraq. This is what has been happening. That's why only 4 months after Niger kicked France out of their country, Niger, that was not just one of, but was regarded as the poorest nation in the whole of this world, suddenly became the 4th fastest growing economy in Africa. How? No, think now. Because the uranium they were getting from their country was selling for about 200 and something euros. The one from Canada, 200 and something, and Niger had probably the purer version. And the French company that had the right of first refusal that was mining it all these years, you know how much they were giving them? Less than €1. So their own royalty was less than 1%. Is this not wickedness from the pit of hell? We all saw it in the media. You know how important uranium is? That country should have been one of the richest countries on earth from way back. But they were stealing it. And whenever they start stealing, they will bring their soldiers and say the soldiers are there to keep you away from terrorism. The terrorism you never had before they showed up. Oh, that these guys are here to protect you from terrorists. Who are the terrorists? And they always send their soldiers to guard the mines where the things are being stolen from. What did these guys do when they took over their countries? They sent all of them packing. America, France, UN, everybody get out of our country. They took up that colonial pact, they tore it into pieces, they destroyed everything. That's why when people are campaigning to become presidents in African countries, they will just allow you. When you finish, you come down. The secret agents from Europe, they will come and meet you, sit down with you and tell you, bro,